This week on Arizona Illustrated, Sean Parker's Universe.
Oh man, that's beautiful. Look at that rain shaft. Oh, dude.
Chef Kumi in Tucson.
I didn't really have much of a community before I started cooking. I would say that it's just the language that I speak.
And the Dunbar Barber.
It was just important for me to make sure that we have a great business that we can serve the community with.
Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. Tucson is home to a diverse, talented, and unique tapestry of people, many having found their place in the world here in the Sonoran Desert. Sean Parker is one of those. The world-renowned astrophotographer has grown a massive international audience focused on his extraordinary images of our world.
What you want to look for is the clouds like building a tower, kind of just building themselves up and going up. You see it here, it's kind of building up. You can look at radar, but what you really want to do is visually look at what's going on. Your eyes can see a lot more than the radar can. Yeah, dude, let's do that drive. Let's head down to Green Valley. The cumulus towers are going up over here, which should produce some good stuff. I started photography as a hobby 7 years ago. I was 24. I didn't really take it seriously until 4 years ago. I started coming into work late because I was up all night taking photos, and once I was working, I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
It's great to see such a crowd coming out for Sean Parker's Universe. We're really excited to explore Sean's journey to becoming a world-renowned astrophotographer and time-lapse cinematographer. Let's give a warm welcome. We're thrilled to have him here tonight, Sean Parker.
Thank you guys, thank you. Gotta get to this thing before it fizzles out. Oh man, that's beautiful. Look at that rain shaft.
Lots of other people around the country and the world have recognized his talent. His images have been featured in Smithsonian Magazine, Arizona Highways, the New York Times.
Oh, dude.
And he's been called upon to work for major companies like the Discovery Channel, the BBC, LG Electronics, and Samsung. He is Arizona native, and we're really pleased that he got his start here in Tucson, Arizona.
I think Tucson plays a huge role in my creative outlet. I don't think I would have found the tie between the art side of it and astronomy. I was at a bar down the street from my house called Sky Bar. At night, they bring out a telescope. So I stumbled over there and took a picture of the moon with my iPhone and was blown away because I thought only Hubble could take the images that I was seeing. So I borrowed a friend's camera for like almost a year, I think, and that's when it hit me. I mean, that's when I was like, okay, I like photography, and it kind of dawned on me. Did you get that? This is my assistant, my furry assistant, Izzy. I realized that taking pictures was my new passion. Dude, this is gonna be insane. Oh, dude, they hit over the mountain. Oh, dude, oh my God. Woo, that was right over it. Oh my God.
At a certain point, you were posting online, and you started getting more and more followers.
Yeah.
And you realized something's happening here. Can you talk about how that took place?
Yeah, I think I started posting in 2012. So I would post to every Facebook page, every Facebook group. I would email like editors just to share my work on social media. Once I turned my photography into a business, I really had to study how to market it. I would see what other people were doing and do that, but add my own twist to it and experiment with it. Back when the Facebook pages day, they were kind of still developing like the likes and all that. There was this one image where it said Sean had like 150,000 people like this. And I'm like, what? There's only like 2,000 followers on here. How is this possible? And then I commented, I said one day. And I think it was like 3 years later, 100,000. And now I'm at 550,000. Yeah. Dude, the shot's gonna be sweet if I get it. Dude, we're catching some epic lighting over San Javier.
You get genuinely excited about this.
Oh yeah, I'm like a kid in a candy store of lightning. I'll probably go home and edit until like 2 or 3 in the morning getting new stuff and look at the models for tomorrow. Oh, that was a good one.
Good night?
Good night, yeah, awesome night. Taking the photo is half the battle. You really gotta get it into Lightroom and Photoshop to really put the final touches on it. Night photography is a whole new world. The camera is picking up a lot more than what your eyes can see. This is the image straight out of camera. And to me, it still looks pretty good, but when you start adding like saturation and color and contrast, your photo really comes to life.
I don't know, but it's signature required. So.
Yep.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Oh yeah. This is all my Sony gear. Part of my brand or my business is working with companies for social media marketing. I'm working with a lens rental company, and they sent me a bunch of equipment in exchange for some photos and some marketing on Instagram. So you got the Sony a7R III. This is the Sigma 14 1.8. So yeah, I'm gonna be testing this in Iceland next week. Sometimes companies will just send me stuff saying, thanks for doing good work. We don't expect anything in return, and I love that. I love just, you know, free gear, yeah. Overnight it to me, why not? All right, guys, just follow me. Oh, let's get our headlamps on. So tonight we're gonna be going over a lot of technical ways to shoot the night sky.
You've been really successful at giving workshops.
So once I started, you know, mastering these techniques, I started teaching them. And that's kind of how I transitioned from learning to teaching. I'm gonna be teaching you 7 years worth of information in a single night.
Wow, that's a good one.
You know, my mom really played a big part in my inspiration. She was like, I'm gonna see you on the big screen one day. I know it, Sean, I know it, just keep pushing. And when I got those licensed images for that Hollywood film, The Bad Batch, I was like, Mom, you're gonna see it, you're gonna see it. But unfortunately, she wasn't able to. But I know that she's there in spirit, and I know that I'm gonna continue to make her happy by creating all these images. And I actually have like this little travel urn that I carry with me, and I go to all these places and I spread a little bit of her out wherever I go. I push myself because there's a lot I want to do, and with how crazy life is, I just want to make sure I get to experience the best things in life before I can't. Being out surrounded by beauty just kind of brings some life back into your soul.
When Tucson-bred, Portland-based chef Kusama Rao announces she's hosting one of her pop-up dinners, it's best to RSVP right away. With so many dedicated Tucson disciples, it's hard for newcomers to squeeze onto her guest list. Like her food, Kumi's story is quintessentially Tucson, a fusion of different ideas and cultures melded into something that's uniquely her own.
This is the curry patta tree, so curry leaves. It's a staple of so many Indian households. You kind of have to have this tree. You pull away these branches, and then you see there's all these little babies. You can't point at the new growth. You have to point like this. You can't, because this makes them feel bad about themselves. When I think about like the best memories in the backyard, it's hanging out with my parents, watching everyone get so excited, pointing with your index knuckle. So you point like this, oh, Kusama, there's some growth here. You're saying, oh, it's coming out here, it's coming out here. You can just rub your hands in it, smell it and get that kari pata oil that just sticks in your fingers. Then just toss it into the oil and fry it. And they're so flavorful. I didn't really have much of a community before I started cooking. I'm super introverted, and so it gave me, I guess, something to connect to other people through. I would say that it's the language that I speak. So my name is Kusama, and I go by Kumi. I'm a cook. Yeah, okay, I can say I'm a chef. I do Indian-inspired, Indian regional pop-up dinners that has a lot of rustic Italian meets Kashmiri, Indian. There's a lot of Thai and South Indian crossovers. Okay, there is a bathroom if you kind of go down the hall to the left. My parents are both from India. They met in Bombay, and then they came to the States in the late 70s.
And some people said, why do you move to Arizona? Not even a single Indian lives there. But when I came, I had to tell you how I got attached to Tucson community.
That will be nice gifts. I started doing, and then frying a tadka and then pureeing.
Being the only person of color in my neighborhood growing up, it just built a foundation for a lot of really interesting things around identity and my feelings of self-worth. It's really strange to have people come into your house and say, your house smells funny, and then never return, and just be so othered with the kind of food that you have, or trying to fit in and also trying to reconcile who you are and where you come from. Hi! Aramse is the name that I title my pop-ups, and the reason why I call my dinners that is it was the word used to describe a rainy day in Tucson, so a very rare occasion, where my family was then allowed to consume fried foods because my mom was very health conscious, and that was not.
Me and Kusma used to put up cultural shows for schools. I would dress her up with all the dance costume, and I would make special Indian meal for the kids. My main idea was, as kids, if they know where we are from India, when they grow up, they recognize that, oh, she's from India. I know Mrs. Rao used to come with nice food for us. And you can embrace that culture with no inhibitions.
I didn't fit in with the kids in the school that I went to, but I also didn't really fit into the Indian community. I felt like I was a little bit of an outlier in a lot of different worlds. But my mom was definitely the cook. She would just spend hours and hours and hours in the kitchen trying to create something that she felt like was going to make someone feel maybe connected to their home.
It gives a special flavor.
She would just be so nervous about, wanting to create just the perfect symphony of all these spices. And even though I didn't really understand, I think at the time, the dishes that she was making, I could really see just how much thought she put into it and how much meaning it held for her. And I feel like I learned that. And when she was at work, I would just go into the pantry and pull out all of the spices and try to figure out how they worked.
She was 13-year-old or 14-year-old, and I'm not there, so she could try all the spices and make her own experiment and make her creative cooking.
And I remember that there was a crossover between a lot of Indian spices and a lot of Mexican spices, and I really loved Mexican food. So I tried to just recreate Mexican dishes using the spices that were in my mom's spice pantry.
She would leave a note on the countertop. Dad and Mom, you don't have to cook dinner today. I made a special Chinese noodles with eggplants. Oh, I was so surprised the way she picked up
Later on to like my early mid-20s, I had been working a job that I was really bad at, and I really felt like I needed to cook to de-stress. And so I was just throwing really elaborate dinner parties for my friends. And then I guess like a lot of people had interventions with me. Like, you really need to do this. You need to stop doing what you're doing because you're wasting your time, and you just need to cook.
And she said, "Mommy, I'm going to resign." "What are you going to do, Kusama?" "I'm going to do something else, Mommy. I'm going to be a chef."
Feeding people is a wonderful experience. Like, it's soul quenching. You get to be a voyeur into someone's palate and experience what they're experiencing. It's really intimate.
Sometimes she's emotional if it doesn't come out right. She keeps adding some more ingredients to make it into perfection. And she goes through ups and downs. "Mommy, this did not come. What else I can add to this?" And I see her questioning herself what she can do better. And then when the final product comes out, I see her joy and happiness.
It's so good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm already so happy with that. So much of cooking this food and creating these dinners feels like going back to my childhood self and being able to show people who I am and where my family comes from. The food that I do is not traditional Indian. It's the way that I learned how to cook. And because of that, it's the way that I got comfortable with being Indian.
Blend of cultures, that's what I believe in. You know, we are all as one family, that's what I believe. And I love it. We are all children of God.
We're gonna break bread. I feel like when I get to do these dinners, I can see people seeing me, which is always really nice to really be seen. So thanks so much for being here. You're very, very special to me.
With the recent killing of 11 worshipers at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, we look back at our story on gun violence and a call to action among young people across the country, including students here in Tucson, Arizona. This is Marching for Their Lives.
What do we want?
911, what is your emergency?
I think I hear gunshots.
I think I was in my student council class at the time.
It began as an ordinary school day, and it was almost over when gunfire erupted this afternoon.
And I just got a notification from the news app on my phone.
Another community is in disbelief, shocked by devastating violence, this time at that Florida high school on Valentine's Day.
And I remember just being like, oh my God, what is this?
Since it was at a high school, and I'm a high schooler, that was especially scary. My teachers had to sit down with us and say, what do we do in case there's a shooting at school? Where do we go? Where do we sit in the classroom? Do we try and leave campus?
I saw this one video that one of the kids took on their Snapchats. It was terrifying. People were screaming so much. The kid who was filming was moving around the classroom. You could see people hiding. I saw this one girl who was just laying on the floor with blood spilled everywhere. I couldn't understand how this could happen and how that could be something that people just accept.
In the wake of the mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, many found themselves questioning what they could accept and refuse to accept.
This isn't just a mental health issue. He wouldn't have harmed that many students with a knife!
Within days, the Parkland survivors sparked a movement with their outrage. And in classrooms across the country, students took note.
They really met this issue with a lot of force and said, this is the time we need to change this, and we're going to say no. And I think that gave a lot of students confidence all over the country to march against it, protest, walk out.
There you are. Hi.
Hi, so we're standing over here.
We are going to make this stop. Change is now. Enough is enough. Woo!
Sharmila Day and Paris Lopez joined students from across Tucson to organize the March for Our Lives on March 24, 2018.
As I look out at everyone that has come to participate today, I can confidently say that our power truly is in the numbers. I thought that that would just be incredible if we had something locally so that people who weren't able to go all the way to DC could still participate and show that they cared about this.
I want everybody to repeat after me. Hey, hey! Ho, ho! The NRA has got
In stepping up for the Never Again movement, they stepped into a legacy of youth-led activism.
The young people have always been at the forefront of these changes for generations. I mean, if you think about the civil rights movement, it was really young people who were generating that, who were really pushing the elders to say, come on, you know, you need to stand up, let's do something. They were often the ones coming up with these innovative ideas about what we should do and how we should do it, and they were willing to take risks. Especially recently, we've had some really strong youth-led movements that we see in the Black Lives Matter movement. We've seen in the anti-ethnic studies battle here in Tucson. As a nation, we've reached a tipping point.
While many politicians have been quick to focus on mental health when shootings happen, Never Again activists have put the emphasis on gun control.
We really need to make it harder for people who want to hurt students to be able to get a gun. I know a lot of people will say that the only way to make our community safer is with more guns, but statistically what's been shown is that that doesn't really work.
An estimated 8,000 people took part in the Tucson March for Our Lives, joining at least 1 million other protesters in communities across the country.
Tell me why our country has more mass shootings than any other in the entire world. We host 34% of the public mass shootings and only 5% of the world's population.
I hope that will come from this move across the nation is that politicians and adults and the media will start listening more to students and asking their opinion and realizing that what they have to say about issues is valid and important and needs to be heard.
Life can be full of unexpected twists and turns. For Martio Harris, his path led him to create the Dunbar Barber Academy, a place where his life experience helps him to teach and mentor the next generation of barbers.
I don't try to train what he knows out of him. I just try to add the stuff into what he already knows because he's already going to be the best in the profession. I wanted to open a barber academy so that I can put more people to work and make sure that we are promoting education and the standard of barber as a profession. It was just important for me to make sure that we have a great business that we can serve the community with.
Thank you, sir.
To me, art is my passion. To me, on a person's hair, it's like art. You do a little masterpiece on them, you make them look younger, you make them feel better, you know what I mean? I want to turn frowns into smiles. I like it.
When I was 7 years old, my dad cut my hair, and he sent me to school, and I had patches all over my head. And so when I got in the classroom, the teacher told me I had to take off the hat. So when I took off my hat, everyone in class started laughing at me. I ran out of the class, and I went home crying, and I told my dad that I'm never going to let him cut my hair again, and he gave me a pair of clippers. And 2 years later, I was cutting everybody's hair in the neighborhood. So a tragedy, and I triumphed from it. I'm checking to make sure he's confident when he's behind that seat. that his posture is good when he's behind that seat. And when he finished that haircut, how did that haircut look? I tried to become a drug dealer. I mean, that didn't last very long. Before 8 months, I had a kingpin charge on me. And God delivered me from that. And so that's really changed my life, because I had an opportunity to either go to prison for 25 years or go to barber school. And that's how I ended up in barber school. I had an easy choice: go to barber school or prison. Barber school won. This is the mirror that I always explain that kind of tell you the story of my life. In 2007, when I first started the school, I came in and I broke this mirror. And everybody always asked me, why didn't I fix this mirror? And I always said, this mirror represents me. Even though I'm not perfect, I'm still effective. Every time I get in trouble or something's happened upstairs, I come down and I look at this mirror, and it reminds me of the process. Regardless of what's going on, I can see you, you can see me through this mirror, and that's what it's meant for. Serve your purpose. My family is the most important part of my life. That's who I do it all for. One of the requirements in my household was, you find out about God, you can make your choice about him after that. And you get your barber's license. And for me, as legacy, if they have God and they have a way to provide opportunities for themselves and others, then you got a good start for success.
I was looking into all the barber shops, barber schools of Tucson, and TOs in particular, Dunbar. It said there was a line in there that said you can create your own ministry, and that really spoke to me. So I just like, I gotta go meet this guy. As soon as I came here, it was enough for me. I knew within the first 5 minutes.
I consider myself retired now. By the grace of God, I come to work because I want to, not because I have to. I have the best instructors in town. My school have 40 or 50 students. I always have a waiting list of 10 or 15 people that's trying to come in. So I couldn't see any different than doing this in retirement.
Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. See you next week.